Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, everyone, wherever you are in this beautiful earth, on this beautiful planet. I am Christina Imre, the founder of Tech Leadership Lab, and this is our second panel at our Global Summit, the intersection of climate, AI, and humanity. And I want to tell you, we had an amazing first panel about tackling what's important and urgent around climate today and what we need to do. And I hope you enjoyed that panel because we had a lot of interactions, comments, questions, and we read everything. We will put together a lot of time to comprehend what was going on and how we can move on in a way that everything will be in the benefit of humanity. And this is what our Global Summit stands for, because we have the technology, and together with technology and the right type of leadership, we as humans can unite to find the right type of solutions that exist today and put them in the benefit and in the service of humankind in a way that we can provide a sustainable future for the future generations, for us, for our kids. And this is our audacious goal at the Tech Leadership Lab. We will finalize this amazing 3-day summit with every day with 2 panels in it, with a consensus document that will put together all the findings we can have. We will analyze everything, and we will create step-by-step processes that would be a first guide about what we can do today in order to solve that climate SDG that impacts every other SDG, Sustainable Development Goal, that we have today. And with that being said, welcome and happy to have you for our second panel here, where I also have a co-moderator, Mark November. I'm very happy to have you with us. Mark November will help me moderate and also put some very awesome questions, because he's the founder of Venture Starters, and this is a movement that just grew and brings together innovators in all domains around the world. And there are weekly sessions where people and startups are pitching to receive money, to get partnerships, to find amazing co-partners and also workers and co-founders for their businesses. And so today we will present to you 6 amazing pitches. And these companies that were selected for today are not here by chance. They are a little sample about what we have today based on technology. And what we identified is that they have the potential, if they are implemented globally, they can be scalable, and together, combined, we might solve our issues sooner. And when we talk about issues, it's about the climate. And this is an existential threat we need to tackle as soon as possible. But luckily, we have the people, we have the leaders, and we have the innovations. And so I'm super, super pumped to hear all the pitches today. We will have, during the first part, we will have the pitches one by one laid out, and then we will have a Q&A section in the second part. But also, we will have an open debate and discussion between technologies existing today and the 6 amazing founders we have present about how they already start seeing collaborating, because it's everything about collaboration. No one can solve our issues today in 1 minute and with what technology, but united we can. And this is one of the philosophies of Tech Leadership Lab, that is an action-oriented think tank, but with the mission to help unite the right type of voices, global voices, both from innovation, but also from legal stand of view and policymaking stand of view, in a way that we can have solutions that include the entire world, because only this way we can build a better future for us. And before moving ahead, a couple of housekeeping details. Every panel has 2 hours. We have a 15 minutes break. We can go a little bit overboard 5 minutes, because every session has a 10 minutes break with videos, very interesting videos. Today's video for this panel, it's based on the current attendees and their innovations. And after which we will go into the Q&A, and everything that we find will be consignated inside the consensus document. And with that said, Mark November, happy to have you with us today here. If you want to say a couple of words before we start to hear those wonderful pitches.
Thank you very much. Very happy to see Jack here in the audience. I know ThermoBuild, fantastic company. Good to see you, Jack. I started Venture Starters about a year and a half ago, and about 10,000 founders, investors, and mentors have all attended at least one of the weekly events. Basically, it's a free event. It's free to pitch at, free to attend, and my wife and I are trying to accelerate a number of solutions to the world's biggest problems that are stuck. And we're hoping at Venture Starters to help get startup teams unstuck. So if any of you are interested, you can look up our website, venturestarters.com, and see the upcoming events. We just did a couple of climate events. We're going to be doing another climate event in conjunction with Columbia Technology Ventures, the university's arm that's focused on climate, and also a New York entity called New York CERTA, which is funded by all the energy buyers in New York, and they grant money to climate companies. And we'll be doing another climate event with them probably in late April or May.
And with that said, because we have someone who also invested so much, and with your extensive background, I will let you to put most of the questions after we have the pitches, because I know for sure that they will be very insightful, and also coming from an investor point of view, but also from someone who hears hundreds of pitches on a weekly basis. And so with that said, we prepared a lineup. Every one of you has 7 minutes to pitch and present your innovations. We will have Q&A and clarifying questions also from Mark until we finalize the first hour. And then we get back during the second one. And the first one who will be pitching is Leon Gerard Vanderberg from Sonified. If you can, let's see if we have a presentation ready. And I think, or we can switch orders. That is not a problem. And so how about Maury? Would you like to start?
That'll be fine, Christina.
And Maury White comes from Sterling Innovations. I have huge hopes for what Maury can bring into the world. It's basically his lifelong work and journey. And I just want to help you to tell me what would you need first, because we have a video presentation from you. If you want, we can start with that. Or if you want, we can start with the presentation.
I think the video presentation is Jason's introduction. So you can start with that and then transition to the presentation.
Perfect.
Force behind Sterling Innovations, LLC, and the Delta Sterling engine. With a rich background including the development of the Mechanical Heart Project, Maury's genius lies in merging physics with renewable energy solutions. His groundbreaking work, particularly the GREAT TES system, showcases his commitment to sustainable energy. Esteemed for his contributions to solar power, much of Maury's pioneering research, including his work on free-piston Stirling engines, is archived at NASA's Glenn Research Center, standing as a testament to his enduring impact on the energy sector. Please help me welcome Maury White.
Thank you, Jason. And looks like we've, okay. The presentation is back. Thank you. I'm losing the presentation. Christina, can you? Okay, slide one. Let's put that on.
We are all set.
Okay. What I want to talk about today is what I call great CSP, great being green energy at all times. CSP is concentrating solar power to enable a future abundant solar power 24/7, 365. The thermal energy storage is the key. PV and wind are relatively inexpensive today, but the cost of storage is very high. Thermal storage is dramatically cheaper, and especially with the great TES with phase change salt thermal energy storage. A simple tank has salt that melts during the day, and as it freezes during the night, it continues the engine operation all through the night. And there's a laboratory unit that was demonstrated the basic concept. It needs to be scaled up. CSP is already established with over 6 gigawatts installed worldwide. Typically consists of heliostat mirrors focused on a receiver that heats hot salt, runs that hot salt to a hot tank and pumps it around through superheater, steam generator, feedwater preheater, a very complex system compared to the very simple system where the salt with great TES, it only heats the external part of the tank, and all the rest of the functions shown there are carried out within the tank itself, a completely hermetically sealed maintenance-free system. This is modular with about 1 megawatt being an optimal size, so you can build out to about any level. Typical CSP plants are about 100 megawatts, so 100 of these would not be impacted by something that would cause an outage. It would simply, the one would be down and be dealt with. The Stirling engines that are part of this have a long history. They started in 1816 with the patent that you see illustrated here with its complexity. They were used for a lot of applications, including you could buy the fan shown there out of the Sears catalog, 1900 time frame. Also scaled up to much larger systems, even though these were atmospheric pressure air engines. The caloric ship Ericsson in 1852 was a 2,200 ton ship. In the 1960s and 70s, Philips in the Netherlands and their licensees applied modern materials science and engineering to develop greatly improved Stirling engines. They're used in many applications. This is a 1.5 megawatt dish solar Stirling near Phoenix. The same basic engine is used in Kokum's, now Saab, Stirling-powered submarines, and the unique thing with these is they have an air-independent propulsion system with the Stirling, so they are the only thing other than nuclear that can operate submerged for weeks at a time. And they have over 40,000 hours of submerged operation. This is a picture of the solar engine, which is very similar to the submarine engine. And you can see from the diagram, it's very complex. The key thing is the crankcase with gears and pistons is lubricated with oil, and those oil vapors will leak through into the working space and foul heat exchangers needing maintenance routinely. In 1960s, the free piston was conceived, and that's a much simpler system. It has only 2 moving parts, a linear alternator connected to a piston with a clearance seal, so there are no rubbing or wearing parts. It's simply supported by flexure bearings. And the displacer shuttles gas from the hot to the cold, the wrong direction. An example of this is an Infinia engine, which is a company I started back in the 1980s. And here I am with the Infinia engine in a Rinnai combined heat and power system. Rinnai in Japan made a number of these for combined heat and power in Europe. Also, a later Infinia engine, about 400 of these installed at the Tooele Army Depot near Salt Lake City to produce 1.5 megawatts of dish Stirling solar power. That's no longer being done, but the company Qenergy from Israel has acquired the Infinia resources, and they've turned that solar engine into a remote power system, and they're doing a great job with selling these into a number of remote areas. They, like all the Stirling engines, they're maintenance free, very long life. The one you see on the left is a Stirling engine that Infinia built nearly 20 years ago for NASA Glenn Research Center. Those have been running, 3 of them now, for over 17 years, which became a world record several years ago. The culmination of all this effort over 60 years for myself working on the free piston Stirling engines and thermal storage phase change culminates in the Delta Stirling engine, which is a new machine that's never been built, but it optimizes Stirling in a way that cannot be improved upon, and it uses basically commercial parts from the Qenergy assembly line modified by putting a piston on the second end instead of just the first end of it, which optimizes the flow paths through the heat exchangers to enable lowest cost, lightest weight, and highest efficiency possible for a Stirling machine. So with that, I'd be happy to take any questions or however the format works here, Christina.
Thank you so much for the presentation. And I know that you dedicated a lifetime for this, and you are bringing basically a solution 24/7, energy-free and green energy for big cities. And this is one of those solutions you are looking for. Mark, do you have any clarifying question before we move on from Maury?
Okay, so all right, let me get set up here. Hi, Maury. Nice to meet you.
Nice to meet you.
All right, Stirling. I've been hearing about Stirling engines for decades, and I've yet to see a single startup company show any success touching anything that had the word Stirling engine in it. And I think that, part of the challenge I think you might have is just not that the technology is better now than before, but even just calling yourself the name of something that has never really been a success for investors in the past might be a little bit of a challenge. That said, you say that your Delta Stirling engine is low cost. I've mostly heard that Stirling engines tend to be actually more expensive. That may be the older designs. What is it about your design and when you say low cost, does that mean you're just the lowest cost between the other Stirlings, or are you less expensive as an energy generator than everything else that's out there right now? And if you are, how can you prove it?
Okay, it is fundamentally cheaper than any other Stirling configuration because it simplifies it to a maximum degree, and a number of Stirling experts agree with me on that. It is projected. I have a white paper on my website that goes into a lot of detail on how I arrived at the cost numbers, the levelized cost of energy, as DOE uses the term for the energy over a lifetime of a utility scale system. And that comes out significantly cheaper than anything that's out there currently or even contemplated for the contribution of the generator plus storage. And it is I bracketed to a best case, worst case. The best case being a manufacturing factor above the basic cost of materials. The worst case being taking what Qnergy was selling when they were selling bare engines a couple of years ago. They only sell complete generators now, but they were selling that for about $25,000 for a 6 kilowatt engine. Their selling price to anyone. I extrapolated from that, knowing that I can at least reduce that cost by a factor of 2 with the Delta configuration, and took that cost per kilowatt, extrapolated out over a range of operating lives from 10 years to 50 years. 10 years is extremely conservative. As I say, we have engines running at 17 years with zero maintenance, zero degradation, thousands of them for thousands of hours with no problems. 10 years, NASA evaluated one of our engines after 12 years, and they took it apart. They could see nothing that would keep it from going another 12 or another 40 years. So 50, I think, is very feasible. 10 is very straightforward. The Delta engine is even simpler and should be more reliable, if anything, but they're extremely reliable already. And the applications, if you look at what Qnergy is doing, they have probably the best Stirling engine that's ever been built that they are putting out there, and they're just not very well known. But it is a what I would call a success, but not very large scale. It's going to take high production to really bring those costs down to a bare minimum. I don't have the numbers right in front of me, but it's a penny a kilowatt hour or less for the storage and the generation.
Thank you, Maury. And with that said, we will have also a discussion in the second part. I would love to move on to have all the pitches ready. And let's say that we move to Jack. Jack, how about you? Are you ready for your pitch? I can give it here. Just a second. So Jack Laken comes from ThermoBuild, and he has a solution that I truly believe it's another one that this time will bring what's needed in big cities, and especially for the building side. And so I'm looking forward to hear your pitch, Jack, if you are ready.
Yeah, yeah, I'm ready. Thank you for putting up the slide deck. So I guess I can click on it to move to the next slide. Really, our solution is addressing a number of problems, not only with the building, but with the smart city energy grid, and basically dials in into a number of issues and problems that today's buildings have by just leveraging and repositioning the assets in the building that we already have. So
I will click on your slides because on my side just say next and I will click it, okay?
Okay, so let's go to the next slide. So really, obviously with our solution is kind of driven around AI technology to basically enable energy sharing buildings that is ready anytime the energy infrastructure is ready, or let's say master plan communities that basically planning large developments can enable it immediately. So if we move to the next slide, yeah. So really, we're kind of addressing a number of things that everybody right now is talking. And the reason why we don't get much traction is because there are too many variables that are affected by really cost. And if we move from the top left corner kind of clockwise, the net zero energy cost, let's say, if it's introduced in an integrated approach that we basically easily facilitate Then we kind of moving clockwise, we reduce the pollution, buildings become energy efficient, they are resilient in event of extreme weather or power failures, and the buildings are responsive. They may maintain comfort for extended period of time, so they dial into, again, kind of catastrophic failures that could take place for several days to maintain the comfort inside of the buildings, and obviously safe. And it was actually validated during COVID, where in our medical buildings, the doctors were treating COVID patients, and they were fully operational because we didn't recirculate any viruses or stale air, and it was 100% fresh air without any recirculation. Unlike, let's say, some of the nursing homes that really were plagued with problems because of the recirculation and viruses kind of floating all over the place. So if we move to the next slide. So the whole idea, while we're talking about AI, people imagine that it's going to be complicated. But the issue is, if we actually begin with kind of minimalistic requirements, then and we begin with simplification, then basically we can leverage a solution hidden in place, hidden kind of in plain sight, which basically we can make buildings rechargeable. So there are different kind of energy storage solutions, and one of them was basically, we talked about it, that has its own place in life. When we have new construction, we can use the building itself as a rechargeable structure, and that leads to a competitive edge and a much easier adaptation to climate change trends and initiatives. So really, it's about building with purpose, not for vanity. So if we move to the next slide. Then basically it begins with the smart floors, where one floor contains 5 different systems without putting in any of these systems. So we're talking about luxury warm floors, cool floors, energy storage in the summer, energy storage in the winter. So basically the summer facilitates cooling, in the winter facilitates heating, and there are a lot of opportunities to harness a lot of free energy that surrounds us. So that is another interesting part that it's possible to dive in greater detail. And if we move to the next slide, then basically the kind of simplification that takes place, not with new technology, but with proven, validated technology, but introducing a new simplistic and minimalistic strategy on how to do more with less. So we reduce the need for mechanical equipment, and at the same time, we eliminate a lot of other add-on equipment that we no longer need. So if we can move to the next slide. So the objective is fairly straightforward. It's adaptation to climate change, competitive edge, validation, and relevance has been proven on more than one occasion. So if we move to the next slide. AI-enabled basically event is basically leads to 5 game-changing factors to consider before we even consider AI. So if we move to the next slide, you see the problem that we have today, it's cost to build new buildings. Lately, we didn't see a building that basically would be built on a lean budget. There are always problems with conventional buildings. Indoor wellness, sometimes it can be considered, sometimes the budget doesn't even allow. Safety, in any climate, it's a problem, sometimes more than anything else. Reducing the energy and pollution, it's another problem, and global adaptation, that's another problem. And all dials back to number one, cost, because there are limited budgets and everybody's looking for government support. Using our solution, really, the solution stands on its own as a standalone solution. So yeah, if we move to the next slide, buildings that we've done have been validated by the Department of Energy, National Renewable Energy Labs, and they're listed in the guide to net zero, although these buildings produce more than they consume by just basically using these kind of repositioned assets that can do a lot more than they initially kind of intended for to begin with. So if we move to the next slide, this is just a picture of a LEED Platinum building, which was basically built in California. And when we look at the picture, everything looks very nice. There's a lot of equipment that was put in. But what's happening, if we move to the next slide, we see that a lot of it's not even required. And they paid a lot of money. LEED Platinum buildings cost a lot of money. And that's why there are not too many buildings in the United States or Europe that are kind of, in Europe, they don't have LEED, they have a BREEAM system, but it's directly compatible to LEED. It costs too much money. And we eliminate a lot of manufactured solutions by using precision engineered solutions. So that is kind of the direction that we basically are driving today. And that's why it's very easy to enable AI-managed solutions that really are going to set to gain a lot of traction. So if we move to the next slide, these are just samples of a lot of buildings that have been done. Everything looks the same, except it feels better, performs better, and costs less. And the cost less is probably one of the more critical ingredients in the whole equation, because if it costs less and we get more, then the solution becomes a lot more attractive. That has been proven, validated on a number of buildings in more than 15 years. And so if we move to the next slide, basically you can ask away any questions you like. And that actually applies to another interesting parts, like the manufactured housing that today is kind of struggling, and and the master plan communities can become energy sharing to begin with, and let's say acquiring manufactured housing with a purpose of repositioning them from plain vanilla to climate smart assets would be quite a kind of interesting undertaking.
Thank you, Jack. And maybe we go through the pitches. What do you say, Mark? Or do you have a quick question for now to be answered?
If I could just say one thing to Jack before I forget. First of all, I love what Jack is doing. Your pitch, Jack, it has so much going on in there. Here's my pitch to you, pitching your company, okay? And you can take it with a grain of salt. Smart Floors cuts developer costs $30 to $50 per square feet, leading to net zero buildings, proven with award-winning buildings. And that's basically the pitch, at least the essence of your pitch. There's a lot that you're adding into your pitch, which sort of detracts, I think, from the solution, which is Smart Floors. I love the name Smart Floors. I love what you're doing. We got to find a way to get architects to actually start using what you've developed in their buildings. That's how this thing takes off and scales. Happy to talk to you about your company again after all the pitches or at a different time.
Awesome.
Yeah. Okay. Thank you.
And now we are moving to Leon Gerard Vandenberg, and I hope that the technicalities are helping us right now.
No, I
to introduce you with Sonified, another amazing solution, this time from green tech and solar panels, and I'm looking forward to hear your pitch.
Fantastic. Thanks, Christina. And yeah, I had to leave the matrix and get into the hard wire, so I'm connected on the hard Ethernet, so hopefully everyone can hear me and we're good. So You can go to the first slide, or else I can present myself.
Yeah, I don't find the slide here because you had it on your side. I believe it was uploaded, and now I don't see it here inside the room.
That's okay. We'll do the deck now. So I'll just load it now. And so Sonified really is a company that provides a type of fintech service on top of solar. We provide a type of IoT service that puts a sensor per panel on solar panels. You can see behind me is my back screen. It's the Maktoum Solar Park, a gigawatt park in Dubai. This park is really maintained by a fleet of workers that are Indians and Filipinos. And really the industry needs to lean into the singularity. And we've determined that there's real challenges in trying to maintain parks of this size. If you look at the forecast for Australia, they're looking to build parks that'll be 20x the size of this. That's a 20 gigawatt park. And this park here is 75 square kilometers. So 20x that, do the math. That's a lot of solar panels from horizon to horizon to horizon. Sonified's Unity chip is a small little chip. It's a Bluetooth sensor that goes on the junction box of each solar panel. It provides a way to measure the current, the voltage, and the temperature of each solar panel. And then we measure this in a blockchain cryptographic proof. And this proof propagates from the solar panel in the field. Using Bluetooth mesh, we backhaul that packet into a gateway, and we're able to provide services around machine learning and AI, as well as a blockchain ledger. So the value proposition of our sensor is for a little bit of extra CapEx embedded into the solar panel. We can improve the performance on the solar panel from 7 to 12% year on year. Just knowing when to clean the panel, is the panel tracking its warranty performance, and can you prove that the asset is in the field and has not found legs and disappeared somewhere? So we provide benefits for the manufacturers, the OEMs of the solar panels, the solar park owner operators, and those services are really provided that way. So we see that this benefit for the financial and the insurance companies for a solar park. This provides a mechanism to provide a real-time rating of the solar panels, and the solar panels themselves report to the blockchain ledger every 30 seconds. And this allows us to really create a brand new fintech layer on top of solar. The sensors go into panels, go into strings. Those strings are configured to connect to an inverter. We also can co-locate storage at the solar park, and we provide this data lake at the solar park that really provides this mechanism for machine learning and a transactive grid. The services that we do really do benefit, again, people in the industry. The whole value chain is then aligned with incentives. The panel vendor is aligned to perform in the field. The O&M provider provides this mechanism for tracking the performance in the field and not trying to fix something after the fact. And then the financial providers and the insurance providers have a real-time rating that everyone is performing and getting the yield out of the asset to the maximum benefit. Our patents are in 34 countries. We have 34 patents, mostly around the Mediterranean, into India, Australia, Japan, yes, South Africa, but we have already agents working for other countries in Africa. And we will eventually have a product strategy to enter the US. The US is really lagging on solar adoption compared to Europe. So we really have raised funds to date to build out in Australia and then to deploy at scale in Europe. Why now? Believe it or not, we're leaning into the singularity. So this Venn diagram of where the intersection set is of need around industry, technology, and climate. We all know that we need to accelerate this green transition. But if you take a look at what we can do now, we're building on exponential tech, machine learning, automated interface frameworks, database tech that can be programmed from ChatGPT output, and the sensor tech can also be programmed with cross-compilers using accelerated generative AI as well. So we are leaning into the singularity. We're able to accelerate and deploy this in a marketplace that is growing also exponentially. And so we see that we can capture about 3% of the utility scale solar panel market. This is, we think, achievable. It's our the projected sustainable, obtainable marketplace. And we can do this with a business model where we sell chips and then clicks. We sell the chips to the OEMs, and we sell the data access and clicks to the solar park owner operator. And downstream, we sell it to the insurance providers, the energy traders, and then to the fintech operators. And so if you compare ourselves to the competitors, we provide a trusted sensor that cannot be tampered with in the field. The data at transit is also encrypted from chip to cloud, and no other competitor in the field does this with their digital twin. We can provide this mechanism to give a crypto anchor that allows property rights for a solar panel to be on the personal balance sheet of someone in Europe for their own tax return. So you may own a fractional right to a solar park in Benelux, but it goes to your personal ownership of that solar panel for your own tax return. So this is very elegant fractional ownership models that we can do, and we're in industry consortium to tokenize the kilowatt hour, the carbon credits, and then to create a data marketplace. We have traction. We've been going for about 5 years. We have external customers with an order book near 1.5 million sensors. We took that order book and then went to Astrology last year in China, and they've agreed to make a solar panel with this digital twin and crypto anchor inside. And we have already bona fide interest from insurance brokers, underwriters, and banks that want to do this with green bonds. So we really do see the opportunity as validated traction. We found our product market fit, and we now are scaling capital to grow into this opportunity. The market sizing, if we start to get some market share in Europe alone over the next few years, we can see that just on selling chips and clicks, we can grow into a revenue model well over $100 million per year. And this is with reasonable growth projections for the solar industry. And we've got committed capital for 10 million. We're still raising money so that we can make our own ASIC chips. And committed capital doesn't mean it's in the bank. So we're still talking to investors about follow-on capital and eventually our Series A round, which will include Singapore and the USA. The team is a core team of guys that have been with us for 5 years. We're starting to build more diversity as we now have got our product market fit, and we need more softer skills to face community engagement and to build the model to license this tech. And if you look at our market entry model, we're starting with the value proposition for park operations and maintenance. We can tokenize the carbon credits off the panel using a new standard called Energy Tag. The data set will be used for grid signaling and balancing the grid. And the insurance providers have already said that they are willing to subscribe to this data. And eventually, after about a year of data validation and modeling, we'll be able to financialize the data, look at very elegant fractional ownership, and eventually tokenization of these smart grid services. And thank you for your time. We see that energy is the mother of all markets. It's a really big opportunity, and we are really securitizing solar panels using this new method. And that's it. Thank you.
Thank you, Leon. Mark, do you have a question for Leon?
Well, I mean, you show 4 competitors on your competition page. Are you less expensive than the other 4?
No, we're not. We're a little bit more expensive right now because we're still entering the market and we have to drive the unit volume. So we have this chicken and egg problem that we need to get enough capital to jump that hurdle.
Is there any way that you can get orders from existing solar manufacturers or buyers so that you can essentially, with a bank, finance the entire thing going forward?
Yeah, we do have a retrofit model that we're working on. Retrofit installation of our sensors is more labor intensive. So we tend to use that for project engagement to validate our data sets in the field. And then we're really looking at future orders that would reduce the cost and get that value proposition even better. The payback on the chip right now is about 4 years. And we really need to get the payback to be under a year to make it a no-brainer, Mark. So it's still, developing hardware is hard. It's a platform as a service, but built on hardware. But the energy transition is not going to be solved with software alone. And so this is something that we're leaning into. We have great support from our vendors, and the Moore's Law will drive the price of this down further and further.
Thank you. And now
Thank
we
you,
are
Christina.
moving. We are.
Great.
I hardly wait, to have the discussion, the second part, because I want to challenge you all to see what you can do with the innovations you have at hand and how you could collaborate, or what are the challenges that you are facing. So it will be an interesting discussion. We can go a little bit overboard around the break, just to make the pitches ready, and all to be informed about the discussions in the second part. Mike McKay from Display Environmental. I am looking forward to present your solution, because you came to us and you have something pretty unique the world don't know about, and we should know more about, and why we should care. And so I'm very happy to highlight you and what you have for us.
Can you hear me now?
Yes.
Okay, great. Did you get the extra slides in my presentation, just so I know, or no?
We have the first slide. It's here.
Okay. All right. So I'm glad to be here. I'm going to pitch you something that we probably don't. I'm going to try to make this in 7 minutes, what I usually do in an hour and a half. The position that we're in, slide 1, is showing aerosols. Aerosols, one of the most misunderstood and misrepresented waste streams, I think, anywhere that I know of. I started in this industry in 1998, was challenged to make an aerosol recycling machine, and took it on. So from there, the rest is history, but I'm going to show you. Can we go to slide 2, please? Okay, so these are the main, if not the only ways to recycle aerosols currently, and that's baling, incineration, landfilling, which is most of them go to, or shredding. And you can see what the problems with all these are. With the top left, with baling, you're losing the liquids, which is low-grade fuel. You're also losing the propellants, which is high-grade fuel, LPG. And with incineration, you're losing the metal. And with landfilling, obviously, I don't have to explain that. And shredding is also releasing everything to atmosphere, plus they're extremely dangerous, because aerosols are very flammable and very dangerous. Can we go to the next slide, please?
Yes, I think you can also click, at least you can.
Oh, okay, I didn't know that.
Yeah.
Okay. I'm just going to do it this way. So this is the graph that I made, and people think I'm crazy, but on the very right, the red thing there is, I always like to compare this so you can get a vision in your head. But the Deep Sea Horizon spill, which I watched bubble up for 8 months from the ground on TV, trying to figure out how to fix that. On the left is a progression of remaining product in aerosols. So people think aerosols are empty. They're not empty. So what we have our own recycling facility as well. So we have all the data, and we have some of the biggest waste management companies in the world. I'll just name a few: Remondis, Republic Waste, US Ecology, FCC in France, etc., or Spain, sorry. So what the industry is claiming is there's nothing to see here. Through our, we have post-consumer aerosols, we have post-commercial aerosols, and then we have commercial, like stuff from end of life, or not end of life, end runs from the manufacturers, etc. Combined, what we see in all of, right across the board, and we have data to back this up, we're in between 20 and 25%. And you can just look at those numbers. And that's not in an 8-month period. That's continuous forever. That's a big problem. And along with the problem comes a solution. So over these years, we perfected this technology. Can we, next slide, please? So I have these on my desk, actually. So the 3 waste streams, the metal seems to be the big target. Everybody thinks metal is the dream. Let's get that metal back. And there's a big benefit to getting the metal back, 90% less carbon footprint to use this metal than to get virgin metal. There is a initiation, an aerosol recycling initiation going on right now, which is taking is getting traction. However, it's only really targeting the metal. And the problem with that is what happens to this gas and what happens to this liquid, and it's a lot. So that is the problem. That's why I can't put my hat on that, because the LPG and the liquids are much worse for the environment than that metal is. And right now, there's a big dilemma, because the technology is not there to do this right, except for our technology. The only competing technology we have in the world is my old company, which I don't even know if they sell them anymore because they lost me. So can we go to the next slide, please? So here we go. So we're looking, I'm trying to work with legislation right now. There's some legislation moving to try to get the Blue Box program to work. And the problem with the Blue Box program is nobody wants to use it. And in order for you to put that in there, then they go to the MRFs or the recycling centers who don't want them. They don't know what to do with them. They don't have the technology to deal with these. That's why they're getting landfilled. So now you put it in your blue box and you think that this is being recycled. Well, it actually is not in almost all cases. So the aerosol market in the world right now is 16 billion cans a year. I believe that the number being fully recycled is less than 3%. I know that's controversial. That's not including the number to just get the cans, which might raise that up to 5 to 10%. In some countries, it's a lot higher. In Britain, I think they're up to 60, but that's not capturing the gases. So now we've created a D-Spray, partnered up with a Dutch company, which is a very good company. And the manufacturing, engineering, everything is done there. We make a miniature factory. So we build them there, we test them there, we get them certified by Lloyd's, certified as an explosion-proof machine. Safety is everything in this world. And once we have them done, the customer can actually view them online or come visit our site. They sign off that it's operating. We take the outside pieces apart. We ship it to whatever country it's going to. Once it gets there and it's on site, we follow it. And in 3 days, you've got a fully operational aerosol recycling factory. One of the things here is money. So we're putting one in Australia right now. US is going crazy with trying to recycle these things. And some of this technology seems like expensive only for the lesser countries, not the first world countries. But in Canada, USA, Australia, Europe, the return on investment on a $1 million or $2 million project is sometimes less than 1 year. In Australia, it's down to like 6 months. And that all depends on the government, what they say. In Australia, they said no aerosols in the landfill. So the issue that we are having here is we need expandability, so we need capital to expand. We've got a full manufacturing, so it's first class, but obviously we can't build one machine at a time to try to get 16 billion cans done. So we need that. And legislation right now is trying to get these aerosol cans so that they can empty them at your house. That's what they're claiming. Empty them at your house, either poke them with a nail or spray the thing, get them down to their empty, and then put them in your blue box, which is really crazy. But that's what it is. So now they're trying to legislate that if they empty these things down below 4%, they're not considered hazardous waste. I don't know how that can be, because I'll show you even what 1% is. This is not even 1%. That's like 0.1%. That's how much of this is going in the atmosphere. So I'm a serial entrepreneur at many successful international companies. Not many, a couple. And right now I've gone from entrepreneur to climate advocate, because I know it took me 10 years to figure out where these are going. And that's why nobody's really heard about what's going on with aerosols. I call it the best kept secret.
We'll have to wrap up.
Yep. So so that's where we're at. We're ready to go to market. We need to expand this thing globally. And we already have fully, all our machines are designed and ready to go to market. We don't need to do any research and development. We don't need to do any engineering. So that's where we're at. Thank you for your time.
If you're ready to go to market, do you have enough aerosols, that are guaranteed that you're going to have delivered to your facility, so it even makes sense to do this?
We're only selling the technology. I'll just give an example. We put one down in Wisconsin 1 month ago, and I say this about every single system we sell, every one in 20 years. You put that system in, it'll be filled in 6 months. We put one down in Wisconsin. They didn't have any aerosols. These are people who have never done aerosols. They know the market's there. They put it down. They didn't even get their permitting yet. They called me and they said they've already got it filled. They want another one. They bought our smallest system, and now they're buying the biggest system to put beside it. And there's the vacuum is so big. I'm telling you, in Australia they're already full. They'll probably order a second one before the first one's in.
Then can't you just grow from sales?
Yeah, the sales isn't the problem. It's the financing to expand the manufacturing. That's the problem. So like these machines, we're giving like a 10-month lead time right now, and we can build 10 at a time. 10 at a time wouldn't even cover my province.
A good bank would love to see purchase orders and work with you on that. That's what they're set up for. It sounds like that, is an option.
We haven't had too much luck with banks. We have been given some grants that helped.
Then you need to get in with not one of these big monster banks, a bank that the president of the bank and they're sizable enough. I'm telling you, if you have purchase orders from a quality paper buyer, then this is just a finance it's a finance thing. And you could do this. You just need to add to your team an expert at this. And once you have that person on your team, you'll be amazed. You won't need to get investors to get the whole thing financed.
Yeah, I can appreciate the financing, but it's also public recognition and to get the problem out there. I mean, right now we've got orders that we can fill. That's no problem, but it's expanding this to give public awareness. That's really
and this is so noble, because I love that Mike is here basically for this recognition. And congratulations, Mike, you were just awarded the other day Global Recycling Hero Award from Global Recycling Foundation.
That is true. It's a little bit flattering. My wife can't live with me because I'm wearing a cape around the house. But yeah, I'm trying to expand on that. I'm a bit of a character, but because I can use that. It's not like I need the cape. I can use that recognition. This is a big problem. It's not really just a banking problem. I think a bank would take this on. Why wouldn't they? Our profit margins are very large.
Yeah.
And
we will continue a little bit the discussion. We are shifting here because we are startuppers, me included. I consider myself an entrepreneur true born. So in the morning, the first panel, we got to have a new term, and it's called the shift tech. And we need to shift to solve today's problems. And so we will just delay the pause, nothing else. We continue until we have all the pitches in order with the question, because nothing wrong will happen. And because people are here very excited, and we received a lot of questions already and comments about each and every one of the solutions you suggested. And I hardly wait to continue the discussion. And we have two more amazing pitches from Mutembei Kariuki and Chris Faraneta or Faraneta. I hope one of those is correct. The second one. Thank you. And so we are shifting a little bit gears, because we will talk IoT and AI when it comes to climate and also solving the SDGs. I'm very, very curious to hear your pitch. Mutembei Kariuki from Kenya, please enjoy us.
Hello, I hope you can all hear me.
Yes, we can.
And just to put up my presentation. Oh, perfect. Okay. Thank you, Ran. So my name is Mutembei Kariuki, co-founder and CEO of Fastager, and we're building AI solutions for sustainable development. We're harnessing the synergies of generative AI on device without using internet, and also combining it with voice AI and climate intelligence to calculate climate risk, empower farmers with data-driven insights, de-risk the food supply chain while unlocking sustainable finance opportunities in one disruptive health, agri, and fintech play. When I was 14 years old, my life changed. This is because I went for a conference and my roommate, I found out, had been a child soldier in Sierra Leone. This was a really big shock for me because I'd just been very interested in technology because I'd first interacted with the first AI chatbot when I was 12. And all I wanted to do was just build technology. But ever since that meeting, my whole world has always been focused on how do we use technology to create a world where we will not have conflict. And as we know, climate change is going to bring about more conflict because as the temperatures increase, as we start fighting more for water resources, we're going to end up having conflict. And I want a world where I don't ever have to have a situation where I'm meeting someone who has gone through a war situation. This is the actual seriousness of this. Climate change impacts are not experienced equally. Most of it will be on the equator, and a lot of it will be in Africa. 50% of future excess mortality will actually be on the African continent. Now, if we look at it, this is also going to affect our health. The extreme heat will actually cause more mosquitoes, which are killed over 500,000 people in 2022. And as the temperatures increase, even more people will be dying. We're talking about also diseases which are going to be caused in terms of lungs. Even in the US, this is in 2023, in the first half, 51 billion was lost in terms of insuring places that were impacted by climate change. In 2020, Swiss Re and McKinsey reported that about $190 billion was lost globally due to natural resources. Now, this is the actual reality in places such as Kenya, where you're having whole harvests disappearing. In a world that is increasingly prone to natural disasters, Africa, if Africa does not devise methods to be able to increase agricultural output, it's likely to face a 22% yield loss by 2050. Why is this important? Africa is far away from a lot of other parts of the world. Why is this particularly important? This is because 64% of the world's remaining uncultivated arable land is in Africa. There is an abundance of fresh water on the continent and over 300 days of sunshine that can actually be used for solar irrigation. We are headed to a population of about 10 billion people. We are going to need to work on this arable land, and climate change is going to make it uncultivatable. We have about 3.6 billion people who get their jobs from the agricultural supply chain. 75% of the world's poor who live in rural areas can actually be lifted from poverty if we actually are able to solve this. 1 in 4, and why is Africa important? 1 in 4 people in the next 10 years of working age will actually be based on the African continent. We are focused on building technology, connecting IoT, and also being able to engage with these farmers and businesses that are in this agricultural supply chain and enable them to be able to get advice using generative AI. And there are about 2.6 billion people who have never been able to access the internet. And so we're actually building for this reality of having on-device artificial intelligence. So this is what we're combining: AI-powered insights from satellite imagery, voice AI in local language. So the same way you engage with Alexa or you engage with Siri. Now, a lot of these parts of the world, they don't speak English. They speak local languages. So how can we train the AI to speak in local languages? So imagine a farmer in Kenya being able to engage in local language and also being able to do financial resilience so that those businesses in that supply chain, we analyze their data, which is from mobile money, and we're able to connect that with climate data and create risk analysis of those businesses. We are leveraging the power of AI on device and connecting the farmers with the information that is needed to get them to be climate resilient and to do the practices. So here is an example of one of the farmers. She'll be able to analyze, get analytical information, on her phone in her local language and get advice on, hey, your crops are about to experience harsh conditions. We suggest that you buy a solar water pump that you can use on your farm. This will help personalize advice for them, help them increase their yields, and the businesses in the agricultural supply chain, such as restaurants, will actually be able to combine their normal data as well as this climate data, and also have a secure supply chain so that they can actually be able to get financing from banks and insurance partners. We are looking at connecting. This is an example of the EOS platform where you're combining a lot of climate data. We're combining that climate data with the data we are actually able to ingest from the mobile transaction data for these businesses. And we're combining this to create profiles for these businesses and to create demand for the farmers' products while they increase their yields. How the LLMs are going to be working on device without having access to the internet. As I mentioned, a third of the world has never actually used the internet. We're on the internet right now, but a third of the world has never actually used the internet. So we are focused on building technology that can have these LLMs working on device, analyzing the business's data, also working with the farmers and being able to engage with them using voice AI. We have a strong team that has lots of experience working in places like Sweden, India, and Africa. Our co-founder Stephanie has a lot of data analytics experience. Our CTO, having worked at Harvard on the data side of things, he graduated out of MIT and Georgia Tech and is a machine learning engineer. And myself, I've worked on 5 continents and multiple projects, and I got my MSc from Japan working on IoT for environmental sensing. We currently have support from NVIDIA through the Inception program for part of the machine learning. We went through a program with Airbus on analyzing high-resolution satellite imagery data and to be able to do more work with remote sensing. And also, we were part of Google's AI startup program where we actually got access to compute power, and which we need more of. We want a world where businesses can have an actual co-pilot, and with them, they can be able to work within the agricultural supply chain, and we can actually be able to feed the world. We're looking for $1 million right now so that we can grow our particular product and engage with more SMEs and get more farmers onboarded as well as SMEs onboarded. And we see that we will, by reaching about 500,000 SMEs, which will be getting the reports, we can be able to reach annual recurring revenue of $30 million, hopefully by the end of 18 months. Thank you very much.
Okay, this entire topic actually could go on for hours. It's actually a fascinating conversation about Africa and where it's heading and all of that. I have a ton of notes. The only thing I'll say, so we don't end up spending too much time on this, because I keep seeing it in the chat here, we're running behind schedule. I'm not convinced yet, and maybe you can convince me when we talk later, because I would be interested in speaking with you about this, how you make a profit, because it sounds like you're going after a market that historically doesn't have much money. So I'm just trying to get a better sense of that. Your initiative is very important and needs to be achieved, but I'm just curious about that aspect of it. But we can talk about that after the break or whenever. I'm not sure what the schedule is.
I'll just put one figure out there, $1.6 trillion. That is actually the amount that was transacted in Africa and Asia on mobile money in the last year. So there's actually a lot of money that is actually being transacted on the continent by small and medium enterprises. And so just the B2B itself was about $78 billion that was transacted. So I think, the continent is actually, powering the world on a lot of levels. And there's actually a completely different paradigm with the kind of economic development that's happening. So there's definitely a lot of money that's present. And if you're now building up on top of that, and you could include DeFi protocols that we'd be able to help fund, some of these projects, I think then we can definitely be able to have recurring income from the technology that we're selling.
Thank you, Mutembei. And now we are going a little bit to the future. That's why Chris or Christopher Faraneta was left at the last one, because we are talking fusion, and I'm super, super curious to hear your pitch and how you can help the world, basically. Welcome.
Yeah, well, let's hope that it's near future, the near future for fusion. There's a joke about fusion, and that goes, fusion is the energy of the future, and it always will be. But we've been working on fusion energy since 1938. And in 1952, let's see, hit the next slide here, I got it. So, it's just some major technical advances for primates, not human primates, but primates in general. So about 2 million years ago, Homo erectus harnessed fire. And think about that. Think about how that was an achievement. I'm also going to start a timer here, keep myself honest, because I'm not really going to talk about the business model. I'm going to talk about the technology. So, what's important here is you think about fusion as fire 2.0. So we've been able to harness fire for over 2 million years. 11,000 years ago, we transitioned from being hunter-gatherers to agriculture, and think about how transformative that was for humans. That's actually happened when we were humans. And then, another significant, and these are obviously very broad milestones here. 1942, the first fission reactor was switched on in Chicago, University of Chicago. 1952 was the Ivy Mike thermonuclear fusion weapon. It was the first fusion weapon to be detonated. And we know that fusion works. The problem is being able to do it in a controlled fashion. Solar energy is basically fusion energy. The sun is a gravitational fusion power plant, and my house is effectively solar powered here. So let me talk about our technology, so I'll stay on time. There are many different types of. Someone tells you that fusion energy will never work, you have to say, well, what kind of fusion energy? Because there are many different types of fusion energy. And the type of fusion energy that we're developing at Near Star Fusion is called magnetized target impact fusion. And so the main parts of our fusion power plant technology, the first part is a 300-foot or 100-meter long staged plasma armature railgun. And it fires like a machine gun. It fires projectiles that are about the size of a sea battery, and they're plastic projectiles with a metal tip on them. They weigh about 50 grams, and we accelerate them down the barrel of the gun, which we'll call a driver. What happens is we build up plasma behind the projectile, like a wave of plasma, and the magnetic force in the plasma, the Lorentz force, basically accelerates the projectile up to about 10 kilometers a second or 6 miles a second. And then in this chamber here, we impact a replaceable fuel target about the size of a golf ball, and inside, and I'm going to have a drink right now of our fuel. Our fuel is water. Actually, more specifically, our fuel is the deuterium that's in the water. There's deuterium in all water on the planet. And so the capsule it's a hollow capsule. It contains deuterium gas. And so the projectile is traveling at 10 kilometers a second, hypervelocity, and it hits the fuel target in the chamber. And at the moment of impact, a roughly 30 Tesla magnetic field is generated in the fuel target. And then the kinetic energy, because that projectile is going extremely, extremely fast. To give you an idea, 11 kilometers a second, that's Earth escape velocity. An object traveling that fast will leave Earth orbit and go into orbit around the sun. That's Earth escape velocity is 11 kilometers a second. So we're going at 10 kilometers a second, okay? And so that kinetic energy, it's about 2 megajoules of kinetic energy that we deliver at the same time that we're imploding the fuel target and producing this 10 Tesla magnetic field. And so what happens is that deuterium gas in the capsule turns into a plasma. The magnetic field keeps the plasma off of the walls of the capsule as it's being imploded or crushed, right? And that helps retain the heat in the plasma as it's shrinking and being imploded. And to the point where the deuterium gas in the capsule ignites, and in an instant you get a miniature star in the chamber, and it releases neutrons and charged particles. And then we have a circular waterfall. This is happening inside of a circular waterfall of molten material, most likely molten lead. It could be molten salt too. And it heats up. Those particles collide with that curtain, that waterfall, and they heat up the material. Then we run the heated material through a heat exchanger. It boils water, makes steam, spins a turbine, and generates our smallest power plant would generate about 50 megawatts of continuous, very, very clean electricity. So 50 megawatts, that's enough to run like 25,000 homes, okay? To give you an idea, a server, your average size server farm to run the internet consumes about 30 megawatts. A server farm for running AI consumes about 80 megawatts. Now, the interesting thing, I just figured out how AI is going to kill us. AI is going to kill us by us using fossil fuels to power AI. That's going to be our end scenario. So obviously, we need to use wind, solar, nuclear fission, fusion energy to clean up, powering the internet, cryptocurrency, AI, quantum computing, and then obviously we need to phase out fossil fuels. We need to stop using our atmosphere that we breathe as an open sewer for the energy that we produce. And so what's really elegant about our approach is that it's very modular. It can be produced in a factory. How am I doing on time here? I've got 4 seconds. So that basically this energy technology can scale to repower the entire planet with very clean energy. And it has a lot of, I can use Bowery's Stirling engines to produce more electricity from my waste heat. So we produce a lot of heat. We can use it for district heating, district cooling, and as well, in addition to, clean, always on scalable energy. And that's all I have to say. Thanks.
Thank you. And we will have an AI panel tomorrow to debate all of these things because I am sure that we can find some solutions for this as well if we put together our minds. And Mark, if you have a question, if not, then I would say that we can go into the break with a little bit of delay, but the videos that will go through the break are for 10 minutes. And so it is okay. And we will have an interesting discussion afterwards. A little bit of house cleaning. Here you have a fun zone area where you will also find a quiz that will reveal a lot of things about you and where you are staying in this journey about climate, how many things you know or do around this. And you have some fun elements as well. You can earn a badge if you want to. And so you can take the time of the break there. Or you can also enjoy our videos here, because we will be back in 10 minutes. Until then, just remember we are here for a collaborative effort to find solutions, real solutions that can be applied from today in order to solve the climate SDG that represents an existential threat for us and the future generations. But there is hope and we can make it happen. And so see you in 10 minutes.
In a world yearning for change, there exists a community of visionaries and innovators, united by a common goal to solve Earth's biggest challenges. As role models for future generations, we're building a world where wisdom and consciousness rise, harmonizing life with nature and all species. Join us. Together, let's create a balanced, sustainable future for all.
So we see the grid as being congested by existing players, but also the grid has not been upgraded. The utilities have not upgraded the grid and done proper forward planning for the adoption of renewables. So the transmission lines and the grid proper is lagging significantly behind in the uptake of green energy transmission. So what happens is that the development around the edges needs local generation and local consumption. So we can take our distributed thinking around blockchain and make a more anti-fragile grid by having systems that are built around more like internet thinking of how the grid should be designed or transitioned to, rather than the way that the grids have been designed with a centralized source like Niagara Falls, and all the wires coming from some hydro plant or a nuclear plant or a coal plant or a gas turbine. So we see that the grids will become bidirectional, and we need to have systems in place that allow a bidirectional grid, but also to have apportioned access to the grid. So someone with a solar panel that's in my neighborhood can share the energy from that solar panel and only be charged the right, let's say, amount of transmission fee to send it 10 meters to his neighbor, rather than send it 100 kilometers to some other grid provider.
The internet is where all human knowledge exists. And today with AI, all human knowledge is actually able to assist as many human beings as possible. But a third of the human population cannot even access this. And what we are building now is infrastructure to enable the 2.6 billion people, as well as the other people who right now, because of the lack of building of enough AI infrastructure, will actually not be able to benefit from it. And we are building the infrastructure that can be able to run machine learning, the large language models, on devices as simple as a $40 smartphone, which is going to be able to change the lives of so many people. Imagine a small person in Bihar in India who has gotten a disease and can easily reach out to the phone and be able to query, take a picture of like a lesion in their skin. And we see if they get access to this internet, we'll be able to increase literacy rates in the world. And imagine if we had more Elon Musks in the world, how would the world look like in terms of innovation? Imagine if we could be able to cure different cancers in the world and get someone to get education to cure cancer in a different part of the world. Within the agricultural supply chain, be able to do climate risk insurance for the businesses and also for the farmers. Because of the changing weather, we can now be able to collect as much data as possible about how the businesses are doing and how the farmers who need to sell their products, now we can be able to give them climate insurance. So whenever they have an adverse weather phenomenon that affects their crops, they already have insurance to be able to recover and to buy more seedlings and to be able to plant again. Because what usually happens if in the flood, it washes off, all whatever they had planted. Because they have insurance, they can get new seeds, they can plant. And then now it ripple effects all the way to the small businesses who have the restaurants and who have the products that are connected to agriculture. And they can also now be able to have access to these goods, and so you end up stopping inflation.
We replace a lot of mechanical components and parts that no longer necessary. You see, we did buildings in Canada, we did buildings in the United States. They have been rated best performing in a survey of close to 5,000, buildings. So, and the reason why is because the concrete floors, when they act as a rechargeable battery, we can pick up all kind of very low-grade energy that right now is kind of being thrown away. We can pick it up. Our buildings in Canada, they are basically listed by the Government Energy Efficiency Office of Canada as best 12 years ago. And in the United States, we did the largest portfolio of buildings that produce more than they consume, and they're listed in the Guide to Zero Energy by the Department of Energy of the United States. And we didn't pay for it or didn't ask for it, but we are there. So what is interesting, that's the good news. The not so good news is we basically find huge resistance from, you see, the decision makers that rely on engineers. And you see, I realize that a lot of engineers, they basically don't have time for any innovative solutions like ours because they feel they lose money. And they don't want to be too much involved.
Today, there's over 16 billion of these produced every year. The problem with the 16 billion is less than 1%, believe it or not, and I can honestly say less than 2% are being recycled totally. How could that possibly be? Because, and I'm talking totally recycled, not shredded to get the metal. The metal's the least part of our worries here, because the metal can be recycled if you shred them, but it's releasing all the contents to atmosphere. So if you take 16 billion, I'm going to send you a graph, times 20%, in most cases it's 30% full. That's like a deep sea horizon oil spill, continuous, not one time, continuous. And that's why it's important.
And every spray of this sort, like what you're showing, every spray of this
spray. This spray, your hairspray, your underarm deodorant, your paint for your car, your everything. 16 billion. We have our own aerosol recycling factory and 100% aerosol recycling. So we're running that nonstop every day. We're doing about 2 million cans a year, and we're just expanding it to double. We have aerosol, these machines we have in the United States in two of the biggest companies, US Ecology, I'll try to say this clear, sorry I'm going fast, US Ecology and Republic Waste, two of the biggest companies in the USA. I also have Ramondis in Germany, also one of the biggest in Europe. We've got a bunch of accounts in UK, and we have FCC in Spain. Those are huge international companies. They only have one machine each. This is the problem. Even the biggest one can only do 10 million aerosols a year. So to go to what your platform is, we need to expand this worldwide.
Fusion is criticized as, yes, it has a lot of potential, but it's going to be late to the clean energy mix. And some people say, well, that we shouldn't waste any time or money on developing it because it's going to be late. And that's for addressing, clean energy, climate change. But the reality is we need to do it because we need to address energy inequality worldwide. Everyone on this planet should have at least the opportunity to have clean, always-on energy to be able to elevate their standard of living. The reality is, if they don't, they're going to be doing things like cutting down forests, going to be basically vehicles for disease. And so, you know, we need to create an opportunity where everyone has potential for a first world standard of living. We have a clean energy problem on Earth, and we have an energy density crisis in space. We're not going to be able to travel in our solar system without fusion propulsion. With chemical propulsion, it's just not practical.
And we are back for an interesting Q&A and discussion. And I will let Mark lead the way.
So I'm just slightly confused. Do you want me to read the questions that are in the private chat first? I'm sorry, Christine. I'm just trying to understand.
No problem. This is the pitching session. It's always useful to clarify with the audience as well. We will take a couple of questions from the audience that are relevant and can have an impact, or most of you might be interested in. And then we will wrap up with conclusions about how such technologies can be combined, and also the founders can discuss this, how they see what they heard today from the other technologies that they might ally or unite for finding ways to solve the climate SDG.
Okay, well, I see at least in the chat, a question for Maury regarding the Stirling engine. Is it true that the starting time for the Stirling engine is really slow? You're on mute, Maury. You'll have to find the unmute. There you go. You're good now.
Okay, sorry, I just got back from the break here. So the question is the starting time. That's not an issue with the system we have because it's always on. And with this type of heater head, there are other applications. It would be combustion heated as well, or some other heat source. And the starting time is relatively short, probably a minute or less. But again, in the utility scale application, it's continuous operation.
And have you been able to build any units to a scale or a size and prove out your cost of energy generation?
The best example is what Qnergy is doing with their remote power systems. And I don't know what they are selling them for now. I think they have marked them up considerably because they were filling such a need. But they were selling into the commercial market a couple of years ago for $25,000 for a 6 kilowatt engine. That they were making a profit there, and that's a very low production. They've just passed 1,000 a year, I think, last year. Yeah. So the prices are not yet down to where they will be if you start manufacturing these by the tens of thousands, hundreds of thousands, or millions if you're going to be going to the utility scale market using their existing linear alternators. They are 4 kilowatt and 8 kilowatt nominal with a Delta engine that for a fully balanced configuration uses 6 cylinders. This would be a 25 or 50 kilowatt module. And 50 kilowatt modules are good to increment with at this point for reasonable future. Long term, I would like to see it go up to 100 to 500 kilowatts.
Maury, can I ask you a question? I can see the Stirling engine. I'm familiar with them. I went to the UK looking for them to partner. It's a total coincidence that you're on here. But the 50 kilowatt, for example, we have the liquid waste and we have the gas waste. It's produced right at our machine and containerized. Mm-hmm. What we're trying to do, we've been using standard gasoline engine or tri-fuel engines. If we could have a Stirling engine, just like ours is already compartmentalized, just get a system, plunk it down beside it. First of all, the question is, could yours use that fuel? Because I know Stirling engines have very low. The other question is the BTU rating. How low or how high can we have? About 11,000 BTU, something like that. Is that sufficient for your thing? And can it burn that kind of waste?
The answer is yes. They've run on landfill gas. They've run on anaerobic digesters. Well, that answers it, because landfill gas is one of the dirtiest gases we have, and we have gas cleaning technology. But if we didn't have to use that gas cleaning technology, it takes $250,000 off the price of our machines. So we're for sure going to need a talk. That's the nice thing about Stirling. You could foul heat exchangers, but if it's used with a sodium interface as a pool boiler, then it is very straightforward to have a very long life. You have a very large. Do you have this on in a go-to box so we could plunk down, or do you need help with that? I'm sorry, I missed the first part of your question. Do you have it containerized or on a skid that you can just plunk it down and we can hook it up and use the energy? Or is this we will get there. That there are actually quite a number of applications, and the one that I've chosen to initiate with the utility scale solar power is the most difficult of a half a dozen applications, one of which you're talking about. The reason that I'm focusing on that, it has the visibility and the need to help draw capital, and it once that's done, it will be able to port over to. Well, if you we'd for sure be interested, but we're looking for a module we can plunk down. I thought I heard you say 25,000. That would be nothing. That's what Qnergy was selling, a 6 kilowatt complete engine. We're talking a 50 kilowatt. We just put an engine, like an actual gasoline engine, in a client, and it was about 50,000, 60,000 US dollars. And they've already burnt 3 out in a year because they can't burn the fuel right. We do have gas cleaning technology, but it's worth it for them to put in an engine like that every 8 months and blow it out. So if the Stirling engine can run, we can just add it on as an add-on to our machine. It'd be brilliant. If you heat the Stirling heater head directly with that fuel, you're going to have problems with it eventually. But if it's we can get into the technical stuff later, but I just want to know if it was practical. It's a very doable thing there, Mark. Let's do this, Maury. I'm coming to see you.
Come on, guys.
I'm ready to. Sorry about that.
You guys can actually meet offline and spend more time instead of during.
We'll get a room.
Let me just finish up a few things here with Maury, and then we'll move on. Maury, remind me, how much money are you trying to raise?
Looking for initially about $5 million. That would be split between doing the.
Okay. Have you done any SBIR grants or any kind of national science or Department of Energy grants?
I was trying to avoid that when I first started out, because I did not want to start a new company like I did back in 1985.
Okay. And, is there any patents that you actually own on this?
Okay, well, let me finish, Mark.
I'm sorry, there's not enough time probably for long answers.
Just last week, I submitted 2 SBIR applications for DOE. They have a perfect Generation 3 CSP solicitation. One of them is going through one of my former colleagues who knows Stirling and has the capability to do the Stirling SBIR with me as a subcontractor. The other is going through a specialty company that's local here that really knows molten salts and liquid metal systems. And so I have both those that were submitted to DOE last week. I've put off that because I was hoping to get a very unconventional funding. And I know the realities, having gone through 40 years of Sterling Technology Company, Infinia, raising capital. I know the realities, but I think the story is so compelling here that I'm hoping that some entrepreneur will set up to take these incremental steps. For the 5 million, you'll have a lab scale, both the 25 kilowatt engine and 2 hours of thermal storage with the salt, and be able to put those together as a complete system. Then the next stage, when you scale up to 100 kilowatt or several hundred kilowatts, that's going to take considerably more funding, but you'll be able to retire what risks there are with those two technologies in the initial.
Okay, just how much money have you raised privately so far?
So far, I'm totally self-funded.
Okay, and how long have you been looking for $5 million?
I mean, Infinia raised over 200 million.
How long have you been looking for $5 million?
A few months now.
Okay, at least you're not an old deal floating around.
I haven't really started seriously.
Last question, real quick. What happens if, God forbid, you died in a car accident tomorrow? What happens to the investors' money in your company?
That will have to work out with the investors.
You have a team. Is there a team that's larger and bigger than you that carries forward?
I have access to over a dozen specialized Sterling engineers, and any two of them could follow through with what we have so far. The Delta engine is so much simpler than the ones that they've worked on in the past that will it could be done once you set this this system in motion. What I'm really looking for is a joint venture partner who has the resources and the will to be able to move this forward. And I'm not looking to make millions of dollars by having my own company. I do have patents.
Maury, just because everybody else wants some time too, I just want to say, and this is just one guy's opinion, you would benefit from finding a co-founder who personally knows investors, so you're not pitching total strangers, and that'll probably speed things up. And when you find that co-founder, that would be your accelerator. Let me move on to Jack. I love Jack.
I will just jump in one
second. Go ahead. Sorry.
I noticed that, no worries, this is your part. And I just jump in because I noticed something very important, and it's related to SDGs and something that some viewers of ours might just think, not say, and I want to address that. Here, it was a full room of men and men innovations, at least founders. And I want to address this as a woman, and also gender inequality, and all of these things are important. So in the process of the research, and everything was just like a synergic kind of movement for the summit, it just happened. And at some point at the end of the game, I tried to find companies specifically run by women in these areas, and I couldn't last minute. So if there is a possibility, and you woman founders in these areas solving the climate SDG are out there, I will run a special show just with you, just for you to know, but please reach out because I couldn't find you. And so I wanted to add this.
That's great. And I just want to add that tomorrow night I'm doing a women founders pitch event for venture starters. It's free to pitch at, free to attend. There'll at least be 30 women founders pitching tomorrow night. If you go to venturestarters.com, you can figure out how to register to get onto the Zoom event. If you're a women founder and want to pitch, you need to arrive on time because you have to click the hand raise to get in the queue to pitch. We always have more people that want to pitch than we can accommodate time-wise. But Christina's event will at least allow you more time to do a slideshow. I only do elevator pitches. I just want to move on to Jack right now, if that's okay, Christina.
Yes, of course.
Okay, so Jack's got this amazing thing that he's created, which is, this smart floor. And the question from the audience is, how does your approach simplify building design and reduce costs? I don't know about that, compared to conventional net zero energy buildings.
Okay. Obviously, it comes from a professional. Well, you see, there are two parts with the net zero. Usually people get worked up and they over-insulate the buildings and they do all kind of things. In fact, that will be of interest to Leon as well, since he is doing solar. You see, our buildings eliminate about 40 to 48% of mechanical systems in the building to begin with, whatever the design brief is. What we're adding free is luxury comfort, like warm floors or cool floors. And I'll give an example. 5-star hotel, the bathroom has a warm floor in a 5-star hotel. Our buildings have it all across the entire floor. And cool floors practically don't exist in USA or Europe because it's a very expensive proposition, requires expensive equipment. We deliver both. The energy storage, we use the concrete. And coincidentally, the concrete becomes carbon neutral, but because we offset against the mechanical systems we don't need to install. Typically, we've done net positive developments where we reduced the need for solar by 25%. So whatever, let's say, Leon is doing, he can virtually deliver 25 to 30% more capacity by actually making a handshake with our rechargeable buildings or energy sharing buildings. So it just creates a better business case altogether. That's as far as master plan communities are concerned. So I hope that answers the question. If there are more questions related to that, we obviously have a detailed slide deck. We can actually talk about it offline. And, there are other people that probably want to talk as well.
Well, I just want to say, Jack, that, again, my opinions. It would benefit you if there was a way to get the government to offer tax incentives or some sort of a motivator for building developers to actually even just take a look at what you're doing. They just don't realize that you're the better choice. And I agree, the industry is a dinosaur that operates the way it always has been and always is going to be. That's their mentality, and they're not going to change until sort of pushed a little bit, prodded a little bit to do that. Because what's frustrating is you already have built these amazing award-winning buildings, which I previously looked at, and it makes all the sense in the world for there to be more of them. But there's no demand for this right now, and somehow we need to create demand. Another way that might benefit you is with some really great public PR that may be able to generate more interest. But it's hard to build businesses just on PR. And I'd love to see you become more sustainable. Anybody that's interested in building anything, you should talk to Jack. Just because of time, I think I will move on.
Yeah. Okay. Thank you so much.
And it's so good to see you, Jack. Okay, Mike, about the aerosols. So, it seems to me that unless there's government demanding that, we pull these things out of the, out of the landfills, it's going to be hard to. I mean, I'm still trying to get my arms around how this is going to end up scaling in a big way. I love that you've already got some momentum going for it, but what's the number one reason why you aren't there aren't $1 billion in orders on your table right this moment?
Really, just marketing and the support system. The market's already there. I got an order while we're in this thing for $500,000 while we're on this meeting. It's pulling on us. I'm standalone. I need a support crew. I'm the only one doing this. My partner does manufacturing engineering. We got a first-class facility. We couldn't ramp up if we want. This is really being launched this year.
Okay, so here's something. I would love if you would connect with me directly. What I would like to suggest is that I plant a chief financial officer part-time on your team who knows banks, has friendly relationships, and can help you move all of this momentum into cash in the bank to buy the equipment and get these things going.
Yeah,
it seems like a no-brainer to me in my head.
Yeah, and there seems to be an amazing amount of government fund. What do you call it? When you get free money from the government, just
non-dilutive grant money.
Grant money. So these guys just got a $500,000 grant. They bought a machine.
Yeah.
So
all of
we
you
need to,
that.
yeah, I would really appreciate it.
And the thing is the reason you don't do that is you conclude that it's going to take 6 months to a year or longer for it to work. And then you assume that you're going to get private investment faster. And then when you're 6 months to a year into this, and you wasted all that time, I highly encourage you all not to think that way, to bring somebody on immediately and start the grants if you can.
Yeah, we're ready to go. The right now, the regulation and people like this, climate is pushing this thing hard, and safety. Australia just got, so instantly they banned all aerosols from going to landfill. So we've got 2 big clients in Australia right now. They're going to make $4 million a year on one of our pieces of equipment. And that's because they banned it from going to landfill. And now what are they going to do with all these aerosols? They don't, like, we'd have to build 20 machines this year to fill that market. So we don't have the financing to expand this. That's it. The product's ready to go. It's beautiful.
Well, if you have orders, then this is a no-brainer. So by the way, my email, if anybody wants to reach out to me, is mark@venturestarters.com.
Okay.
Glad to see your decks. And
we also have a fully
especially the gentleman from Africa, that project, I'm sorry, I won't remember that one. Oh, Matambo. I'm mispronouncing your name for sure. My apologies. Please, I want to talk to you, but there's not going to be enough time in this session for me to ask the zillion questions I have of you. So let me move on to Leon real quick here, and then if we have time, we'll get to Africa. And Chris, I'm sorry, I'm not sure what our deadline is here, but it sounds
I have to head out because it's almost midnight here, so it's just really quick question. I can just answer that.
Well, I mean, I'm still okay. So, I'm aware of a lot of technologies that are going to be coming into Africa to solve the problem of delivering digital connections. For instance, Devorto, which I own a stake in, we're developing aircrafts that will hover at 12 miles above Earth, so that the satellite equipment is as far of a distance away as cell towers typically are here in the U.S., instead of 330 to 380 miles above Earth. And when we start to deploy these hovering devices in Africa, which we will get to at some point, we're funded by NASA and the U.S. Air Force right now, what is that going to look like? And then how can that, so now if we can get to everybody, I worry that the 1/3 of the population referred to happen to also be the poorest population on the planet. And are we trying to take money from people who really can't afford it?
Okay, so perfect. Thanks for the question. So actually yesterday we were meeting with Nick Clegg, Nick Clegg, the president of Meta, and so they're actually connecting another optic fiber cable, landing in 19 countries in Africa. So there's definitely a lot of capacity coming to the continent. So to the question about whether it's the increased internet will actually reduce the need for the innovation, actually no. So you can see even Apple or Google are actually working on optimizing the large language models for machine learning on device, as well as NVIDIA also announced quite a number of initiatives. So I think for us, we're not seeing it only as an innovation that's only going to be working for those people who don't have internet, but actually going to be reducing the cost and optimizing for machine learning to run on device. And to the question of how to make the revenue, is that we're actually currently, the first use case is actually working with the businesses on the continent that actually need the data to be used for growing their businesses. So an interesting fact, so right now, Kenya got mobile money or sort of digital transactions on mobile about in 2007. So that's way before even the US got Cash App. And so that's already about a $1.2 trillion in terms of transaction volumes that have been done. Just that was in 2022. In 2023, that was about $1.4 trillion. So a lot of these businesses already can afford to spend, let's say, about $5 to be getting the insights, because they've been very ignored by, technology providers from outside the continent. And so since we as a team have worked in, at Klarna, which is $1 billion like fintech in Sweden, or worked in the US and around the world, we really felt that we should bring these innovations also to the continent, because 1 in 4 people of working age are going to be from the continent in the next 10 years. So it's a massive opportunity that we felt that has been ignored outside the continent. And so we'll be the ones who have, fast mover advantage. And so that gives us a very good opportunity to actually, for acquisition or other exit strategies that could come, or just grow as a company, because we're already a Delaware entity. And, we see ourselves being able to grow even outside the continent.
I love the initiative. I sure hope it works. I mean, I don't have any other questions, and since it's midnight, I don't know if there was somebody in the chat that had a question for you that I'm missing, and I apologize if I don't know how to. Let's see. No, it doesn't look like, I'm not noticing it. Maybe I missed it. In any event, I'd love to see your deck. If you could send me your deck, and then you and I can hook up when it's not midnight your time, and maybe have a conversation someday. I'd be curious.
Okay. Thank you, everyone. Have a good night, everyone.
Thank you. Let's see. Who am I missing here? We also have some questions from the audience for Chris. What inspired you to pursue magnetized target fusion technology versus other approaches to achieving controlled nuclear fusion?
Because our driver is very, very energy efficient and very, very simple. That's the plasma gun. Lasers, that megajoule lasers that are used to drive laser fusion reactions cost hundreds of millions of dollars. And they're very energy inefficient. And effectively, with our plasma guns, they're assembled on a wooden bench, and they're made from existing materials. They don't mind being dirty, and they're just very robust and simple.
Is there a way that you can get into a U.S. national lab with what you're doing so that it can be validated at a level where dumb people like us would go, oh, it really does work?
Okay, So we build plasma guns for Los Alamos National Lab. Since 2004, our team has brought in over $18 million in non-dilutive, government grants. We've got a great team. My PI, my chief scientist, has brought in, since the early 1980s, over $46 million of grants. So we're a known commodity. I'm the co-chair of the Space Committee for the Fusion Industry Association, and that's to develop space propulsion. The Fusion Industry Association has lobbied the government successfully. Fusion energy will be regulated like a nuclear medicine facility in a hospital. So we've got it wired.
Chris, if you had started your presentation with the last 60 seconds that you just gave, by starting off with all the money that you've raised and all of this,
that's amazing.
I would have actually been engaged in your presentation. Your deck actually turned me off, and it was not nearly as good as the 60 seconds you just gave us.
Yep.
Awesome.
Anyway, sorry. In other words, just an opinion. Who are we missing? There's somebody else, right? Did we catch everybody?
Leon.
I'm sorry. So Leon, I mean, economics drives everything at the end of the day. So I guess what you have is better than what everybody else has, because you had more green check marks against all the, list of attributes versus all your competitors. But it sounds to me like the areas where your customers are the most interested is, do I need to wash it now? And are there any underperforming sections of the grid that we need to know about that we should send somebody out to check on? Are those the two biggies, or is there more that are like that will create enormous?
The biggies are the insurance providers. They want to know that the panel is there, has a real-time rating, because if there's a insurance claim on the park, they want to know that it was properly maintained. and that that the EPC is built correctly, and the O&M who provided the solar panel is actually performing to warranty. So we get all the alignment of everyone in the value chain working the right way, rather than the Spider-Man meme of 3 Spider-Man guys pointing to each other. It's your problem, it's your problem, it's your problem. Right now, the industry can't scale, and it basically is dropping 7 to 13% extra performance just away. It just doesn't have the yield. So for us, we're getting an independent lab, the Fraunhofer lab in Germany, to do this accounting on what is the value proposition and independent unit economics on the payback. And yeah, it's just hard to break through. Moore's law will drive our chip down even cheaper every year, and Swanson's law is the efficiency of the panels for a certain size. So that Q point has now been found last year, and it's just going to get better and better, our unit economics. So it's just persistence and finding the right investors and partners with the risk appetite to go forward.
But isn't it really finding the developers, the solar developers? I mean, they're the one they're your buyers, right? Who's paying?
Yeah, the solar park developers and the owner operators. So it's no one is building a park that's not bankable. You can build, own, and operate, or you can build and then flip. And then who's going to be left with this park that fails to perform after 5 years? And then who wants that noose around their neck? So the industry is really driven on price right now, not value. And this narrative of solar coming down and down in price is really driving a lot of misallocation of capital in the industry. It's going to have to go through that cycle of misallocation, and then we're going to see value decisions come back.
So my understanding is the banks that are funding these and the investors that are getting behind these solar parks, they're typically requiring that the developers buy panels from a very select group of solar manufacturers that have actually a track record.
Yeah. There's a Bloomberg top 10, right? You would have seen that, the top 10 panel. But it's like a fantasy football league. You pay to play to get into the Bloomberg kind of top league. It's not the real performance of that panel in the field. So what we're delivering is real world results in the field that are objective and performant. So this is both the educational challenge we have in the market, and then the path to market that we're leaning into.
Well, it would be interesting to explore whether tier 2 manufacturers of panels might be interested in embedding this in, so that they could say, look, we're not a tier 1 yet. You don't trust us, but we're going to prove to you that we're as good.
So it's kind of like the Michelin tire guy saying you can pay now or pay me later, right? When you have your family and the camper van behind your car and you've got two blown out tires.
So Liam, it's a quickie idea, and I'm sorry, but this is all on the fly.
Go for it.
No advance, but it would seem to me that if you were talking to the owners of the tier 2 solar and even tier 3 solar manufacturers, they're who should be investing in you, because they have the most to gain to use you and leverage you at this early stage, unless the insurance premiums are so substantial that the insurance company can afford to say to the developer, we'll credit you XYZ if you'll install this on, so that there's some monetary incentive.
That's the virtuous circle we're trying to kick over, right? So if the insurance guys say, spec this chip into your design, and then we'll be able to provide a better policy for you at a cheaper, let's say, per megawatt price, then that's the kicker. Just like monitoring your home for insurance companies for burglar alarms and insurance for home.
But it only works if you're saving enough on the insurance premium. I have a feeling the cost of your equipment is going to be more than the insurance. I may be wrong.
Well, no, it's categorically going to end up being less, and it's not just the insurance; it's the combined value proposition. Being able to trade energy with these new data sets, the machine learning and predictive maintenance signals that come from the park. So it really is a value bundle, but being able to argue about price versus value is a more sophisticated discussion. It requires nuance.
Send me your deck because
no problem, Mark. I will.
Yeah, a company that has asked me to sit on their board of directors that currently manufacture 3 gigawatts of tier 1 panels a year. So
we'd love to be there.
See what's what.
Christina,
thank you very much for letting me be part of this.
Yes, thank you, Mark, for moderating this. And what you just did at the end is something what we want to pick it up from here. And we will continue because we will have sessions where we already see some matchmaking that will happen between those who are here and people like, for example, at the first panel, we had transition engineering, and we could see some combinations here that we will want to tackle to the next level, because Tech Leadership Lab stays for amplifying impact. And that means that we bring the right voices in the right places and we put it in front of decision makers. Hey, this is the solution. This is what you can do it today. And so we will continue with that. Thank you for the moderation aspect, Stellar, like usual. And for everyone, I have a quick question. Please think it through a little bit, because I just want a line. It could become a quote that we will spread around the internet. Because of the mission of solving the climate SDG sooner and your solutions, what do you think is the one big step that could be done today in the world in a way that we can still achieve those good goals for humanity and moving further? And Mark, if you want to answer this one.
I'm going to be biased because I'm a co-founder in a company where we're developing a coating that we've proven 10 times now in independent tests that when we apply it on the inside of the pipes that are attached to anything that's producing air pollution or CO2, we can literally break the molecules in the pipe down to being non-toxic and not negative, and literally break the CO2 molecule as well. And so my personal opinion is solve the problem by fixing it at the source. Once it's out into the air and it's into the atmosphere, it gets very, very expensive to try and solve. So, my opinion is source solutions right now, a combination of a bunch of them, are where we need to sort of go, because we're not going to be able to vacuum clean the environment, our atmosphere, and fix all the CO2 problems.
I'll add one last thing, if I can. The product that the people use, like everyday product, it's not tracked. And we really don't have the technology to track it. So the extended producer responsibility is not going to the right end. And how does that happen? And one of the ways it can happen is with QR codes, or Polytag is one company in the UK that is going that way. The problem is the manufacturers can't keep up with even labeling the damn cans or the product. So if we could, I think technology can solve that. But then how do you track all this data? And I think blockchain technology and AI can be ramped up. I don't know enough about that, but if we could track when things come off the back of the manufacturing facility to the shipping, to the store, to the end run, even at the recycling center, they scan it through, they can tell the weights, they can tell the thing, producer responsibility, you can't deny it. But I think blockchain technology would be something that could go there.
Who's going next?
So I'll tip in there, Mike, where we actually put our sensor on the solar panel at the China factory. We're tracking its QA performance from day zero in the factory, and we track the supply chain delivery of that panel. And of course, there's a number of gray market profiteering maneuvers that the Chinese have been known to do, so especially the tier 2 and tier 3 players interweave solar panels with dud panels in between the pallets. So we've seen this bad behavior before, not in the top tiers, but we want to be able to have that traceability and stewardship of the supply chain, and the same thing with the battery modules as well. So
awesome. Yeah, so I think if we track every product and there's right now there's no responsibility in the aerosol industry. Nobody even knows where it's going. Honestly, I'm the only one that knows where it's going. My partner, It's like, well, nothing to see here. Like as it goes up.
Well, you know where all the dead bodies. You know where
Yes,
all the dead bodies are.
You're the careful. But it's
well,
if it was tracked,
you're the Harvey Keitel of the aerosol industry.
Yeah, these big companies are prepared to do their part. Like all the big, they're prepared. They don't know what to do, and they're paying into producer responsibility. That's not the issue. We can force companies to do producer response. Where does the money go, and how does it get to the right place? You can't just give it to the organizations that are supporting the producers. And that's kind of what's happening. Hey, let's change legislation so 4% doesn't look like it's hazardous waste. Crazy stuff. But if you had that tracked, that would go a long way, like everything. But I know that's a big call. But we got the technology coming. We got what 2035 before, like that's a lot of time at this pace with AI. So it's just my crazy opinion.
And now, Maury or Jack, who wants to go next?
Yeah, well, I guess I can, unless somebody else wants to jump in, and I'll close it off.
Go.
Okay, so you see, as far as buildings are concerned, they definitely consume a lot. And there's a lot of equipment put into the buildings. So if we adopt a mindset how to do more with less, then we're going to find that buildings can find themselves strictly in a ventilation mode by harnessing free energy that surrounds us. So that cuts down on the carbon footprint, on run to failure risks of equipment that we don't need to put in. So altogether, it's definitely an educational process, awareness process. At the same time, it's a decision maker's mindset process because no new technologies are introduced. In fact, we eliminate a lot of manufactured solutions to get better outcomes.
Thank you. And Maury, do you have something to add? Your view? 1 minute. Oh, let's unmute. Can you unmute yourself? You're good.
Nice. Okay. I'll just say, Mark, I fully understand what the investors are. And when I started this journey, I said, I've got to find the non-standard, unconventional investor. And that's what I'm still looking for. As far as a support for that, I do have a 5-person group in OpenEXO that is really filling the bill for me. And I think they're going to help me move forward to where we can get that unusual investor who has the far-sighted idea to put in a few $1 million to see if he can earn trillions back on it in the next 20, 30 years. So that's what I'm looking for. And plan B, as I said, I've got these submissions into DOE. Now, as we know, SBIRs, about 10% are typically funded in phase 1. So I've got 2 of these. Gives me a 1% chance of getting all of that going on DOE. But that's a 3-year program if it does go. But I will keep plugging. I'm here to get the job done, and I want to keep at it.
Thank you, everyone. Yeah, Mark?
Just quick. Sorry, couldn't help myself. So, Maury, couple things there. One is nobody should be looking for a non-traditional investor but what I hear is like, imagine that the money river of investors, the river runs from north to south, and you're trying to swim from south to north to catch that one person that's going up against the river. It's just a lot of work to find. So I think that what you need to do is find a strategic. Which industries, which companies are going to benefit the most from your breakthrough? Who needs it the most? Who has already an existing pain? That's who you need to be talking to get the investor for this one, because just saying to somebody you might make $1 trillion and you're looking for somebody who's interested in becoming a trillionaire, it's probably not the likely pathway. I don't think that's who you're really going to end up finding or attracting, in my opinion. It's best to package your companies in a way that investors think, from their perspective, it looks investable and it looks like something they're used to investing in. Investors are we're so cautious that when we see things that are outside the scope of what we're normally used to looking for, it scares us. We consider those red flags. You can de-risk your deal a lot by sort of setting yourself up in the ways that investors really like to see. And it's not a whole lot of work, but it comes down to team. I mean, at the end of the day, teams are who pays us back. Okay, not patents, not inventions, it's teams. So we want to really feel strong about your team. And if you're not the person who can raise money right now, the CEO for a startup, their number one job is raise money. So you might need an interim CEO to replace you. You might need to move to chairman, but you may need somebody who already knows investors and can easily speak to people that they already know and raise the money. And that, to me, the model of pitching total strangers to find money is a model that sort of fell apart about 2 years ago and isn't as applicable as it was pre-COVID. The best models right now are stack your team with people who aren't going to get too much equity out of your company, but are going to earn a little and then might earn more by making warm introductions. Build advisory boards of people for who they know, not what they know. Most startups have a team that's stacked with people who know a ton of technical and detailed stuff, and they're very great at inventing, but they don't have anybody on the team who knows the right people. And if you don't know the right people, you get stuck really easy. So in startup world, the key is to have a team that's they don't have to know anything about how to invent anything you're doing. They don't have to be technically minded. They just need to be able to open up doors, warm introductions to the investors you need, or the buyers you need, or the government agencies you need, or whatever it is that you identify as the things that are getting you stuck. When you find those people and you add them to your team, you'll fly again. That's just my opinion.
Thank you,
Thanks, Mark. I
everyone.
appreciate your perspective.
I will close with the final words because our first day is over, and thank you everyone who stayed over. I believe it's a good discussion to have, especially because this will stay on the internet and we can promote it step by step from now on. This is not over. If TLL stands for something, Tech Leadership Lab, it's for the word action. And for sure, we won't stop here just with discussions and just see what we can do. And then we can go and take a nap for another year because we don't have the time and luxury anymore. And also because we have this amazing innovator. So Mark, bringing your perspective into the equation was very welcomed because many people who have innovation, anywhere you are in this world, if you have something similar, you understood the other side as well, because most of you need money and need to be believed and need to be broadcasted about your solution. And you need help. Sometimes you are not just the best leader to talk about your solution, or you don't know how to reach out for money. We are also a platform between other things. Amplifying impact is also bringing the right type of solution. So if you identify something that if it's mass adopted can solve the climate SDGs sooner and it can be included inside the legislation very soon, then bring it in front of us because we will grow. This will grow, and we will have a duty also, at least I know I have one, to bring this in front of legislators, to bring this in front of decision makers, because it is about our future. And this is what for sure I stand for as the founder of TLL, and moving further, this will be always a priority. So thank you for bringing us a little bit of your word and showing us what it's achievable. And we continue tomorrow with the first session. Let me share here down as a ticker, because panel 3 tomorrow in the morning or in the afternoon or in the evening, no matter where you are, it's about climate adaptation. And we have back a favorite guest of ours, David Dodd, who basically introduced us to this huge topic that has only 7% of the finance that it needs, and it should be on the same level with carbon reduction. And so we will explain why climate adaptability and resilience is so important to tackle the climate SDG. And then later tomorrow, we will discuss AI at the AI Factor panel, and that will be another awesome discussion. And as you got used today, you will have just one by one unique people who were selected to pitch, to talk, to express their expertise. And we will have people from policy, people from innovation, people, the best experts in climate resilience and adaptation, to understand where we are today and what we can do. And so with that said, let's see each other tomorrow as well, and get back, and also please share it with others who might want to join and share their views with us.
Yay,
Have an
Christina. Great job, Christina.
Thank you. Thank you, everyone. See you tomorrow.
Fantastic.
In a world yearning for change, there exists a community of visionaries and innovators, united by a common goal to solve Earth's biggest challenges. From climate action to quality education, we're tackling all 17 Sustainable Development Goals reassembled as 10. We embody sustainability, unity, and empathy. Our character and reliability shine as beacons of hope. As role models for future generations, we're building a world where wisdom and consciousness rise, harmonizing life with nature and all species. Join us. Together, let's create a balanced, sustainable future for all.